those of you who don't know, giving a witness talk is very close to my worst nightmare. And we were actually instructed to only talk for 5 minutes, and so I'm really going to try to stick to that.
No, that's okay. We have time.
I'm much more comfortable lecturing up in front of an entire church of people because I'm reading God's words. It's not my words, it's not my story, it's His. So anyway, I will share with you what little I have. I also am a cradle Catholic. Faith in my particular family was not a very positive subject. My mom is a very devout Catholic. My dad is extremely anti-Catholic, and it was always a bone of contention. We got to Mass and things like that. I did go to Catholic elementary school for part of my elementary, but it wasn't anything we discussed. It was always a very negative topic. When I got to be a young adult, I went the way of many young adults. Didn't necessarily go to Mass. I was what was called a cafeteria Catholic. It's when you go down the line of all the church teachings and you say, well, I'll have one of those and maybe 2 of those. Oh, I don't want that one. So that was probably several years of my young adult life. I was married outside the church and eventually got divorced because God was not in that relationship. Decided I really wanted to be a mom. Decided that was like one of the things I really didn't want to grow old and not have had that opportunity, was being a mom. So I ended up adopting my daughter. She was born in South America, and I brought her home when she was 3 months old. And that was probably one of the big game changers in my life, becoming a parent. I suddenly experienced that, this was my responsibility. Just like Father said, God puts people in our lives so that we can pray for them and help them get to heaven. And of course, Jesus saved us all, of course, by His death and resurrection. But I felt this incredible responsibility to get my child to heaven, to raise her so that she knew her faith, she appreciated her faith, and that's just what I was supposed to do. So that's when I started becoming a little more active. We went to a different church at that time. And so I started lecturing and became an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion because I wanted her growing up and watching me to be different than my growing up and watching my own mother was. My mother was very devout, but, well, as old as I am, they didn't have those roles for people, for lay people, like lecturing and extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. But even if they had, my mom was really, really shy, and she would not have done those things anyway. And she probably would have figured it would have caused a problem with my dad. So anyway, I decided I was going to be more outward with my faith at that time. And that is a very imperfect motive. But God can even take our imperfect motives and make good things out of them. I feel like over the years, participating in those ministries, I always made sure my daughter went to Catholic elementary school. She, luckily for me, she got a scholarship to Catholic high school because I couldn't have afforded it. But we went to church all the time. We were very involved in different things. By the time she was at the end of the 8th grade, we were part of St. Gertrude, so she was part of the youth group. And when we came to St. Gertrude, I just really felt like I had died and gone to heaven. You know, this was the most wonderful parish. It had priests and sisters who were zealous and excited, and they made you want to mirror that back to them. You know, they made you want to exhibit the joy that they had in their faith life back to them. And I don't know, I feel like over time, I feel like the completeness, the integration of my faith into all areas of my life, I feel like it's been very much a lifelong journey, and it still is. You know, my faith